well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month. Shout out to Letitia Fox Rochelle and Foxy's Fabulous Accessories, an independent paparazzi jewelry consultant. FoxySCanBe.com, Foxy's Fabulous Accessories on Facebook, or 870-761-4323.
Broadcasting from the First National Bank Tower, this is KLEK Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Thursday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. A stalled out weather front will keep cloud showers and thunderstorms in the forecast for today, tonight, and Friday. There might be a severe thunderstorm today and tonight. Flash flood watch in effect for today. High temperatures today in the mid-80s, and it'll be around 70 tonight. Low 80s tomorrow. Spotty showers and thunderstorms, partly sunny. And there might be a stray shower or thunderstorm over the holiday weekend. The bulk of the weekend should be partly sunny in the low to mid-80s. Jonesboro's community radio station, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Russian officials say claims opposition figure Alexei Navalny was poisoned with Novichok are a provocation. Body camera footage shows an unarmed black man died in New York State after having a spit hood placed over his head. More than 83,000 people have tested positive for COVID-19 in India in a single day, and the UK government's announced plans for mass testing for coronavirus, which it says could be a huge step forward.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Thursday. It's September 3rd, 2020. This is Community Conversations. Here to wonders in the studio with you. I'm joined by Kabila Jones, host of Community Conversations via phone. And joining us in the studio is Brandon Hogan. He is a candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2, and as always, KLEK and the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. We do not endorse or support any candidate for political office. This interview is provided for informational purposes only, but we definitely encourage everyone to exercise their right to vote. Election day is November 3rd. The last day to register to vote is October 5th, and of course, registration is ongoing right now. You can also request your absentee ballot. Just contact the county clerk's office and they will happily get that information to you. Go ahead and submit that absentee ballot as soon as you possibly can. We all know that the mail is running slow. Preferably, if you can, just drop it back off at the clerk's office, and that way you know that it will get there in time. So with that being said, Brandon, welcome to the show. And as I always start a little bit by telling a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Brandon Hogan. I was in the military for a few years.
Thank you for your service.
Sure. I didn't do a whole lot. I wanted to. I tried, but I didn't get to, unfortunately. I went to college first. I was going to be a teacher, and I started getting into the classrooms. Didn't really like the way that the teaching was controlled from the higher ups. Teachers have very little choice in what they teach, and I didn't like that.
I've been there.
So I changed to just a bachelor's of arts in history. Then I decided I needed to go into the military and be a medic. And I did that, and actually I got wounded, or I got injured.
Did you get a Purple Heart?
No, I was injured outside of combat.
Okay.
So it was a dumb story. I was running down a road, and it was dark, and I messed up my leg. It's kind of how it all started. But after the military, I got out, and I went because I was a medic in the military, I had all this medical knowledge. I went for nursing. So I got my nursing license and everything. And then right about that time, was when I was awarded by the Department of Veteran Affairs. I was awarded disability, and so my choices were I can either work as a nurse or I can stay at home with my children who were really young at that time. My daughter was born 8 days after I started nursing school, actually, so both my children were really young. But I could get the same amount of money doing either one, so I chose to stay home and help with my kids more. And that's pretty much what I've been doing since.
Okay, so what made you decide to run for city council?
Well, I think like a lot of people, you know, especially people with children, young children especially, but I look at the news and I look at the world and I look at the way that things are going. I don't like some things. Some things are going great. You know, if you look at statistics, this is the greatest time to be alive in human history, as far as, you know, infant mortality, diseases, income, that kind of thing. But there are also some things I didn't like. And what really got me started on the city council thing was I live on a fairly high traffic road. It's constant cars coming down and they're always speeding. You know, the speed limit's 20 and people are going 40 and 50 miles an hour down there. So I can't let my kids even play in my front yard. I'm afraid for them. And so I called the city and asked to have a speed bump put in, and they said, we don't do that anymore. And I said, oh, really, why? Well, we were getting too many complaints from insurance companies and individuals saying that when they were going over these speed bumps too fast, it messed up their vehicle. And I was kind of dumbfounded. I said, is that not
purpose?
Yeah, is that not the purpose of a speed bump, to force you to slow down? And the woman said, well, we just got too much pressure from some of the businesses around, I'll just say, and so we don't do that anymore. And so that's kind of what got me started down this path. Just little changes like that just can't be done.
So you feel that if you get elected to the council, you can be an advocate to address things like that. Someone who would, I guess, in this situation, that would stand up to those businesses and insurance companies,
right,
in a situation like that.
Right. I mean, I don't necessarily want to make it a battle, but instead of, let's not be so worried about the bank or the insurance company or the guy speeding down the road illegally. Let's be worried about the children who are playing there and the people that live in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some other issues that you feel very strongly about regarding the city of Jonesboro?
Well, as you and I were saying before we started here, community involvement is pretty low. I mean, in Jonesboro, it's not as low as a lot of other places. There are a lot of great people that do a lot of great things and want to get involved. But overall, just kind of nationwide, community involvement and individual involvement in local politics is pretty low. And I want to change that. And I think changing things like that, it's kind of a culture of that's not important enough for my time. You know, I've got a job, I've got kids, I've got this and that. I don't have time to deal with that. Let me deal with the big issues. And so it gets kind of lost in the fray, and then there's a small handful of people that make all the decisions, and they're not necessarily the best decisions for everyone around.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. So you mentioned about your military background. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that your experience in the military helped to prepare you for this position if you're elected to be on the council?
Well, one of the things in the military is camaraderie and what we call esprit de corps, which is we all work together all the time. You are never alone in anything that you do, and you shouldn't be, and you don't have to be. And that's one of the big things, is you don't have to do this by yourself. And I think a lot of people kind of feel like they are alone. We have a very individualistic society, and that's okay. But it's okay to also say, I can't do this by myself. I need help.
All right. Let's go ahead and bring Kabila on the line. Do you have a question for Brandon?
Well, I just wanted to, go in line with some of the other questions we've been asking when it comes to economic development and growth and new businesses and housing development coming into our city. And so just taking into account all sides of town, all residents, how would you try to ensure that we're getting the best bang for our buck and, our citizens are not being taken advantage of and railroaded by some of the things that are trying to come into our city?
Well, again, I think it comes back to community involvement. You need to get the individuals that live in an area, say we're going to hear a proposal from some business who wants to build in a certain area. If no one on the council or in the chamber lives in that area, works in that area, spends all their days there, I don't think that decision should necessarily be made by those people, or at least not alone. we should ask the people that live in that area, and it's hard to do that when those people don't show up. And so encouraging community involvement in your local politics, I think, is very important. I think that starts with kids, and I think it's something that we should definitely focus on a lot more than what we do.
All right. Next question.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought up the kids aspect, because I've asked this of all candidates, city council, governors, not governor, mayors, everyone. When it comes to youth involvement, how would you like to see them involved, or what type of programs would you try to implement as far as youth engagement, and that includes Arkansas State University students?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, actually. This is one of my kind of pet projects of my own, is I would like for Jonesboro to have some sort of youth organization. And when I say youth, a lot of people think 16 to 18, and I mean more like, maybe break it into 10 to 14 and then 15 to 18. Somewhat like the Boy Scouts used to be, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, where they have a place to go and they can learn these kind of practical skills. Maybe go on trips like camping and things like that are fun, but also you learn how to change a tire, how to check your oil. You learn what a city councilman does. You learn how to vote. We were speaking earlier before the program. I was never even taught how to vote. It was just something I had to figure out whenever I got older. Had to kind of Google polling places and things like that. And then I think that again goes back to the community involvement. If you can get young people and teach them how these things work, they will naturally get more interested, and they will naturally be more prone to get involved in those sorts of things. So that's one of the things that I really, really would like to see done.
And on top of that, in addition to the program that you mentioned, if you are elected to the council, would you try to work something together to bring maybe like a boys and girls club here? I know one thing that we always hear talked about from different candidates for offices is public-private partnerships, and I think that would be a good public-private partnership that could help to get more youth involved.
That would be great. Personally, I would prefer it to be something more local and not necessarily a national organization, because when you get in those national organizations, they dictate
why not
the
have
program.
Both? Why not have both? Have the national and the local. I mean, hey, give kids options. I think the more options that kids have for things to get involved with, the better it'll be for them.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying that it can only be one, but like I said, when you get involved with the large organizations, they kind of dictate the program, and it may be good on a national scale, but it doesn't work in Jonesboro.
Okay.
Like boat safety is not necessarily something that we need to spend an entire weekend on in Jonesboro. On December 5th. So just maybe a bad example, but just something like that.
Well, actually, it allows me a chance to transition into something else that you mentioned, boat safety. Of course, one of the main controversies that most recently affected the city was the Team Jonesboro proposal, and you've heard other candidates talk about it, and some stated they were for, some were not for it. But what is your stance on quality of life issues and bringing amenities to Jonesboro, and how do you feel that should be handled?
Well, you definitely, it's a competitive field. You have to make the area that you're in attractive to the people who are going to bring in those types of businesses and those types of things that bring in the funding. But the funding is not the goal, it's a tool. You have to go into it with that mentality. We're not here to make money. The city is not a business. We don't make money. That's one of the things that people focus on, the economy, and of course it is extremely important. It's one of the most important things, but that's not the goal. That doesn't measure, how happy someone is with their life or how content they are if they like their job. They just have one necessarily. And I think as far as bringing in amenities, like I said, you have to make the community attractive to the people that can do that for you.
So if you were elected to the council and Team Jonesboro came back in front of the council again, would you be supportive of it or not supportive?
Team Jonesboro has some really great ideas, but they don't have a really great plan.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you would want to see the plan tweaked.
Right. We don't have to dismiss it, but I wouldn't have voted for it in its current form.
So what would it take for you to vote for it? Maybe specifically more more defined amenities, or what was the breaking point for you?
Well, that's one of the things is that they say, oh, we should do good things. Well, what good things? How? What specifically is it that you want to do? You need to define this before you start asking people in Jonesboro to pay for them.
Okay.
You know?
Certainly,
another
makes
one of
sense.
the excuse
Go
me.
ahead.
Another one of the things was how to pay for it. Jonesboro doesn't have a revenue problem; it has a spending problem. One of the things, if you go through the city budget, Jonesboro recently spent $5,000 on a copy machine just to copy court papers, specifically for that, which you would think means a black and white copier you can get at Walmart for a couple $100s. They spent $5,000, and of course $5,000 isn't going to pay for a lot of things, but that's just a symptom of a larger problem. They also spent $32,000 on 8 radios, $4,000 a piece for radios for policemen to carry around. Now, of course, policemen should have the best equipment. They should have everything that they need, but you can get two-way radios at Walmart for $100. You know, I don't know. I'm not a policeman. I don't know if there's some kind of special frequencies that they use, but I have a hard time believing that it cost an extra $3,900 to do that.
Well, I mean, I can speak for police equipment. I can tell you that broadcast equipment is not cheap. Like this board that we sit on, this is like a $7,000 board, and we need to upgrade it. So, you know, I think that's just electronics period, just expensive.
Right, they are expensive.
You
but
know, like even like your smartphone. You know, I mean, they charge you $1,100 for it. Well, did it really cost $1,000 or $1,100 to build it? Probably not.
Right, mine cost $40, and mine does everything that a Galaxy or an iPhone does. You know, so there are alternatives that don't cost that much, and that's kind of what I'm speaking to. Is there are other ways to spend this money, more responsible ways, and it could work towards something like the Team Jonesboro initiatives.
All righty, Kabila.
Okay, well, since we're on the roll of, controversial or...
Well, he said off air, he said, don't be afraid to ask him the controversial questions.
I'm not afraid. I don't play politics. I'm a regular guy. You know, there's a difference between being tactful and being, overly politic, as someone might say. And if you want my opinion, you can ask my wife, or my fiance, I should say. If you ask for it, you will get it.
Okay.
So...
Well, we ask the same questions of everybody, so I just want to get your input on. We know another issue that came before the council was the street renaming, the MLK street renaming. And so, if another issue like that came before the council, if you were elected, one, how would you try to go about handling or making?
Well, let's just back up before we ask for our futures. If you were on the council, would you have voted for MLK?
I don't believe in renaming things to pander to people. I think it's condescending. If we wanted to make a monument toward Dr. King, fantastic. Let's do it. Let's get the zoning, let's get the funding, and let's make that happen. But I think especially in this case with the MLK Boulevard renaming, it became such a contentious issue that didn't need to be.
So you would have voted no for it if you were on the council?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Fair enough. Again, everyone is entitled to their opinion. Of course, we don't sway people one way or the other. We let people say how they feel and let the voters decide. Now, I think Q was asking, so if, let's say, a future renaming of a street, I guess some other individual that another group felt made significant contributions for whatever reason, if it came before the council, how would you approach that?
Again, the renaming, I would... of course, individual basis. You can't just make a blanket statement like that in most cases. But renaming something just to pander to a certain group, I think is a bad idea, no matter what or who that group is. If there's a new road being built and you want to name it, Dave Smith Avenue because Dave Smith was a really great guy in Jonesboro or America's history, let's do that. Fine.
All right, Kabila?
Well, I was going to actually go into...
I'm sorry.
There was a council that was created. How do you feel about there possibly being a more permanent committee versus, or should it be a permanent or special committee?
Well, what committee are you talking about?
If there's another issue like this that comes before the council, not just a street renaming, but something that potentially be controversial and cause tension among the residents. Some type of unity committee, whatever you want to call it.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the nature of the question because
Okay, I think I do. Basically, when the MLK proposal came up, Mayor Perrin created and I can't remember it was the Unity something committee. I can't remember the specific title of it, but basically, I think what she's asking is a citizens committee that would select made up of a diverse group of citizens in the community soliciting input on a proposal that becomes before the council and then give recommendation to the council. That would be a permanent committee. Would you be in favor of that? And it could have any topic for it. It could be a tax increase. It could be a project that's coming to town or anything.
Well, honestly, I think that would be a little bit redundant because that's what the city council is. If there were more community involvement, I keep going back to that. It's kind of one of my things. If there were more community involvement, that wouldn't be necessary. And having a committee specifically to see how this is going to affect Jonesboro, that's what the city council is supposed to do.
Okay, Kabila?
Okay, well, I do know that there is a lack of involvement with the citizens. So if you are elected, even though you represent the city as a whole, would you try to be more engaging with your ward residents and get them more involved, as much as possible, and host quarterly town hall meetings or something of that nature?
Are you asking would I focus more on the ward that I represent or on the city as a whole? Is that the question?
Well, I understand you can't be all over this. Even though you're on the council, you are making decisions for the city. However, would you try to build a relationship with your ward residents or constituents? Sorry.
I think what she's asking is if you are elected to the council, what will you do to get to know the residents of your ward better?
Get them more involved.
Well, I think instead of focusing on my ward, we should focus on the city as a whole. And one of those things, like I said earlier, would be like a youth organization. Call it the Jonesboro Young Citizens League, or just call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. The name isn't that important. But I don't look for solutions that fix things this week and then they come up again, next month. I'm looking at solutions for the next generation. Get the young people involved, teach them these kind of things, and then 20 years from now, it will not be an issue again. In the meantime, of course, you don't want to wait 20 years for that to be fixed.
All right, and we're going to leave it there. We're speaking with Brandon Hogan, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. And let's go to our Facebook Live. Facebook's a little quiet today. Let's see if we have any questions. If you have any questions for Brandon, post them in the comments. We want to hear from you. Anything, any topic. He says he's not afraid of the controversial issues. So whatever's on your mind, ask him. But we're going to go to a break. We'll be back in a little bit. This is KLEK on 2.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What is your child passionate about? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Maybe your son is passionate about art. Maybe your daughter is passionate about animals. No matter what it might be, every child is uniquely wired to be passionate about something. And as parents, it's up to us to help spark our child's curiosity. To do so, there are certain things you should do with your children every year. First, take them to a science museum where they can experiment and learn. Second, take them on an outdoor adventure where they can explore nature. Finally, take them to a school or university where they can be inspired by the power of education. Be sure to always look for new ways to encourage your kids' passions. And remember, your family first.
Want to connect with Mark on Facebook? You can at facebook.com/Mark Merrill.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. KNOMEGA 1908
Brought to you by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, dedicated to the purpose of achievement. Jonesboro Alumni at gmail.com, Jonesboro AR Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity on Facebook, and Jonesboro_Kappas on Instagram.
KLEK thanks R. Scott Trout and the Trout Law Firm, 247 South Main Street in Jonesboro, for believing in our mission to educate, entertain, and empower the community with a motto of aggressive representation and quality customer service. Areas of practice include criminal law, divorce, custody, child support, real estate, wills, power of attorney, estate planning, and general practice. Details 870-933-7100 or troutlawfirm.com. KLEK thanks Charles and Candace Mabry and the staff of Mabry Smokehouse for their support of KLEK and dedication to the Jonesboro community. Mabry's offers Texas-style barbecue, beef brisket, pulled pork, ribs, rib tips, chicken wings, smoked sausage, barbecue fries and nachos, sides, and desserts. Located 1504 Red Wolf Boulevard, Jonesboro. Open 11 to 8 Tuesday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday. More info, Mabry's Smokehouse on Facebook.
Starks Auto Plaza and Auto Service now under one roof. 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard. Serving the Jonesboro community for over 5 years. They offer wholesale pricing to the public on vehicles, financing for everyone, and synthetic blend and full synthetic oil changes with spin-on filter with vehicle inspection included. Starks Auto Plaza. We never say no. 870-203-9980. Details at starksautoplaza.com.
Hey guys, it's Kaz, the host of New Jack Radio Weekly, and if you love the classic New Jack swing hits of the 80s and 90s, then you're going to want to check this out. So make sure to tune in every Thursday night as I take you back in the day from 6 to 8 for New Jack Radio Weekly with me, Kaz, right here on KLEK 102.5, Jonesboro's community radio station, your life, your music.
KLEK thanks the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with our guest Brandon Hogan, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. So I wanted to ask next, Brandon, what are your thoughts on crime in Jonesboro? And if you are elected to the council, what would you do to try to work with the police department in regards to crime?
Well, if you look nationwide, Jonesboro has very low crime rates. It's a very safe city. You know, it's a place where you can. When I was in the military, I talked to people from all over, of course, and the idea that I would, put gas in my vehicle and leave it running while I went into the station to pay or to grab something else was completely foreign to them. So, it just blew their minds that I wasn't coming out to an empty parking lot that my car had been stolen in the 3 or 4 minutes I was inside a convenience store or something. And so I think if you look, it's not that bad, but it could always be better. Any crime is too much. As far as working with the police, I think the city council and the mayor does a pretty good job giving the police what they need. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, maybe a little bit too much. But just having that kind of communication there. What is it that you need? What kind of problems are you as an officer on the street facing, and how can we address that? I think people a lot of times get kind of caught up in the bigger issues and, how can we totally reform the police? Well, that may not be necessary. Let's just change their routes or add another officer to the force, and that can fix a lot of problems. Something like that. So I guess a more detailed look and conversation with the police officers themselves, not even necessarily the leadership, but the officers themselves.
All right, Kabila.
Okay. Shoot. I had a question.
Oh, sorry. So I think you had a brain fart.
I'm sorry. I do tend to run on. I was saying a minute ago, I do tend to run on, so I may have.
Well, it's all good. Like I said, it's easier when someone runs on. We can always cut them off. It's easier to cut someone off as opposed to prompt them to say something.
Okay, I have
That's a nice way to put it.
Okay, so if you are elected to the city council, and I apologize to anyone that's currently on there. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes like that, but would you encourage fellowship and networking among the city council members and continue professional and personal development?
Personal development among the city council members?
Yeah, professional development. If you're on the council, would you encourage for yourself and other council members to seek professional development on best practices for city council and just even getting other trainings or maybe going to visit with other councils just to see some best practices, get some ideas for some things that could help make the city better?
Of course. Everyone, I mean, not just city council, everyone should be that way. You should always be ready, willing, and able to learn something new and learn to improve what it is that you already do. There's absolutely no reason not to. And anyone, you absolutely can teach an old dog new tricks, and you should.
So what kind of dog do you have? Let's lighten the mood up a little bit.
I actually don't like
you don't
having
like
animals. Not in my. I love dogs and puppies. Who doesn't like puppies? But I don't want them in my house because what ends up happening is, I have 2 young kids, 7 and 10, and it's always, oh, Daddy, I want a puppy, I want a kitty, and a week later, all of a sudden, that's now my dog, and I'm the one cleaning the hair off the couch and taking it out and that kind of thing. And so I don't have pets.
Oh, understandable. Just something I have to lighten the mood. I can't go all controversial all the time.
Oh, that's the fun stuff.
Right. Kabila?
Well, no, I wasn't trying to be controversial, but just, I would love to see, this goes across the board with any organization, any business. I just feel that individuals should spend time getting to know each other. And so would you try to also spend as much time as possible? I know everyone has jobs and lives, but just really fellowshipping and networking with your fellow council members so that you all are trying to be more in sync with making the best decisions.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. Absolutely. It's always easier and better to work with someone that you know. If you know kind of where they're coming from and you know their attitude. And like, I'm a person who a lot of people think I'm in a bad mood all day, every day because I don't have like a resting, smiling face. But that's just, I just have that face. I guess I just look angry all the time, and I'm really not. I'm actually a super laid back person. But if someone didn't know me and they had only seen me in the council chamber and they're trying to ask me a question, they might be a little bit more hesitant or might word it a little bit differently because they just assume I'm in a bad mood. Whereas, if they know me, then they're much more comfortable coming to me with something that they may feel is, even frivolous. If someone's in a bad mood, you don't want to ask them something that doesn't really matter. But if they're, happy and being jocular, then it's okay. And so I think getting to know each other always makes things easier with anybody that you're working with, and I would absolutely encourage that.
Okay. I didn't think to ask some other council candidates, but I just thought about, okay, we know that several city government entities have Facebook pages, and they just share information that is, relevant to that, department. How would you feel about, and I don't know how detailed of a page may already exist, but how would you feel about a social media page just, introducing the council members, an agenda item for the day, for the week, for, whatever. Something else, another element that helps get the residents more engaged. How do you feel about that?
I think that would be a great idea. Again, more community involvement, get the people involved. You can't help someone if you don't know what it is that they need. That was one of the first things you learn in becoming a medic or a nurse, or probably anyone in the medical field as far as I know, is you have to know what's wrong before you can fix it. You have to diagnose the problem, and if you don't have any kind of information on it, then you're just blind, and you're basically useless at that point. As long as the Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram or all those other social media pages as long as it doesn't become so focused on what you might call the optics, we have to make ourselves look good instead of we have to let people know what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, and let them tell us what they think we should be doing and why we should be doing it. I guess basically, as long as it doesn't become a vanity project.
Thank you.
Sure.
And so we also know, and again, is probably going to ask this question. I'm sorry, jumping ahead.
No, go ahead.
We know that there's going to be a new mayor, period. And so, what are your thoughts on working with someone new, and then just getting to know, like, how would you navigate that whole scene if you were elected?
Working with a new mayor?
Yes, working with the new mayor.
Well, any mayor would be new for me to work with. I haven't been on the council before, so that I don't think that's a problem specific to me. But whoever the mayor is, it doesn't matter. Once the community has chosen, then the choice is made. It's not like if that's someone that I disagree with, then I'm going to take my ball and go home and just refuse to work with that person.
Okay. That's the second time this week I've heard that term, take my ball and go home.
It's old school.
Yeah. Maybe I'm showing my age a little bit. I'm not that old.
Well, you don't have to be old, but it's something that you.
For the classics.
Yeah, if you've been around a while, you've heard it.
Okay. Again, did you have any other questions relating to?
Let's see what else is going on in the city of Jonesboro. Okay, let's talk about Arkansas State University. Obviously, Arkansas State is a huge part of Jonesboro. If you are elected to the council, what would you like to see as far as the partnership between the city and Arkansas State in order to help both entities to grow?
Well, I noticed Arkansas State University is becoming more and more closed off, and that's by design. They want to kind of make it their own community. That started long ago. I'm sure you remember when you could take Caraway all the way straight through.
Yeah, I still miss being able to drive through Caraway.
Right,
maybe.
And when I first started college, my first semester you could do that. By the second one, they had closed it off, and you could only go so far into the university. And then it was you could only go just beyond the railroad tracks, and now you can't go down there at all. The university is getting more and more separated and segregated from the community, and I think that's the absolute terrible, like the opposite way that it should go. We should be getting more integrated, get those students into the town instead of, like I said, cutting them off and making them their own separate community within a community.
Okay, so what would you do to encourage students to be more of a part of the integration into Jonesboro?
Well, local businesses do a great job, discounts for students and that kind of thing, and you see the wolves up everywhere, and so they do a good job of trying to kind of integrate the university into the town and into the town culture. But again, they're kind of physically cut off, and it makes it hard. I'll go back to the Caraway Road thing. You used to be able to walk from the dormitories that I first lived in, Twin Towers. I don't think that building is even there anymore.
No, it got imploded in 08. I was there for it.
Yeah.
I lived in it too, so
I lived there whenever it
everybody
started
has a Twin Tower
actually
story.
Falling down. Do you remember the bricks falling down the outside of the building?
I was in school when that happened.
So, but you used to be able to walk from Twin Towers straight there to the Wendy's, and now that's
the Wendy's
near
is out of
impossible.
business. That Wendy's went out of business.
Right, and it's directly because of that. Not only just because the students can't get there, but because people driving by to go through there, even if they're weren't going to the university, they were going by it, and so there's so much less traffic. That killed that business, absolutely killed it. And so I think like the overpass was a terrible idea. Instead of I say again, instead of making ASU its own community within a community and completely cut off, I mean, the roads are like a moat around the university. Instead, we need to have walkways to and from and roads to and from, and instead of making it its own separate entity.
All right. Kabila?
Okay, well, I want to go back just a little bit and talk about some things that maybe fall under the economic development, maybe quality of life. One thing that concerns me is housing availability. And I've lived in Jonesboro over 20 years, and more specifically, I lived on the north side for over 20 years, and I've seen the ebbs and flows. And there have been some developments that have been, great additions to this side of town, and have provided quality housing. However, there have been some additions to some neighborhoods that have been nice housing, however, not as affordable. And so, if there's a proposal that comes before the council, how much consideration would you take into how beneficial it is to the residents, and not just the north side, any side of town? We know that people live in all different income brackets all over the town. So, what would be your take on that, your approach?
Well, I actually lived on the north side of town for a while myself. I lived on Mays Road, which anyone who's from that kind of area may or may not be familiar with it. It's near Patrick. But what you're kind of getting into is kind of a loaded term called gentrification. And building these high-income housing in these low-income areas and then pushing those low-income people out, which you have to strike a very delicate balance. Putting these new affordable housings in there is very difficult for the construction builders, for the real estate agents to buy the land and to entice the builders to build there if they're going to make so little money, or even in some cases lose money. And I think one of the ways would be tax incentives, but also giving those jobs to the people in that area potentially, so that they're now making the money so that they can afford these newer apartments, these slightly more expensive ones, and encouraging people to build not necessarily lower quality, but maybe smaller in physical size. So instead of, building 10 5-bedroom houses, let's build 20 2-bedroom apartments. They are naturally going to be more affordable for the people in that area, and then they still get the nice, newer, modern amenities. Like the house that I lived in didn't have central heater air. We had little radiators and window unit air conditioners everywhere, and of course that makes utilities go up, and then you're spending more money for less, and so you have to strike a balance. But I think that comes with incentives for the builders and the real estate, and also for the workers themselves. Give those jobs to people in that local area.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that, because that's something that Quabila definitely feels very passionate about, is the topic of gentrification. I'm glad you actually brought the word up, because sometimes Quabila don't actually like to say that word, but I mean, it is what it is.
Well,
and
that's the common term for what she's basically explaining. And like I said, I'm not afraid.
And what you say is right. How do you strike that balance? I mean, you want to have something nice. You don't want to just build a crappy thing, or worse, just leave it as it is, run down, or whatever. But how do you strike the balance between building something nice where the people that have been there for generations can still afford it and not be forced to go somewhere else?
Well, like I said, I think it goes back to incentives for the builders, because if they can build in Jonesboro and make, say, just use a number, $10,000 profit, but they can go to Paragould and make $100,000 because they're being, forced or encouraged to make these smaller ones, then they need some kind of incentive to build here. And I think one of those incentives could be to increase their profit slightly by lowering their tax rates, maybe, and also more making Jonesboro attractive for people, because it is a good community. Make it known that this is a place where people get involved, and that you will get help from the local vendors and things like that.
Quabila?
I appreciate you. McGinsey said, I don't mind saying the word gentrification. I know that makes some people uncomfortable, but it is what it is. And so I do appreciate you for also mentioning about the tax incentives. I would like to propose that question to businesses. Since you lived on the north side as well for a time, you've seen, I'll say, the lack of growth. And I do understand the residents have to become more engaged and involved, and, do their part with the upkeep of this side of town. However, there are some businesses that would be beneficial over here. Let's just go for a bank. I live actually up the street from Subway on Caraway. And so the closest bank is Hilltop or downtown versus, one right by the grocery store. That would be a little more convenient. So I would like to see, even if it's an ATM that's not inside of a gas station, things of that nature. So what would be some of your thoughts on getting businesses to come over to this side of town?
Well,
especially for someone who's lived on the north side yourself.
I think specifically what you were asking about an ATM, if I'm not mistaken, there's one in the parking lot of the bookstore, or there was.
Well,
it's been a few years since I lived over there.
Well, there's one in the student union, but you have to navigate the parking garage to get there. But not just an ATM, but even if just a bank branch, even if it's just one of those little small ones.
Right. That might be, as far as specifically a bank, that would be more Mr. Emerson's area, probably. But speaking generally, as to bring in, finance centers and bigger businesses and things like that, I think you hit the nail on the head when it's the residents in that area need to take a little bit of initiative, not necessarily initiative, but take a little pride in their area, maybe even make it, a property tax incentive where, if the upkeep on your home and your yard is taken care of all year, then you get a small discount on your property taxes or something.
I could go for that.
Something like that. Keep the yard mowed. Don't leave garbage in your yard. That kind of things. Because when investors go around looking for areas, I know because of some of the friends that I've had and a little bit of my family, that's the kind of things they look for. They will drive around the neighborhoods in the area, and if there's garbage in the yard, if there are, yards going unmowed, if there's vehicles parked in the yard that you can tell have been sitting there for 6 years and stuff like that, they don't want to go there because it brings down kind of, in a vain way, it brings down the prestige of their own business to be seen kind of in that quote-unquote sketchy area. And when you can attract the business, the business will come. If the area becomes attractive, the business will come. People's own greed to make money will drive them to the area. So I think making the area more attractive visually, just from like an aesthetic view, would go a long way.
Absolutely. And maybe even add to that, getting to something we talked about earlier, I think some of the people who live in these areas just simply don't know how to organize to advocate for the things that they want. But that kind of goes back to having those meetings within the wards. That'd be a great opportunity to say, hey, what do you want in your ward? And then, of course, they got to do their part too. They got to say, hey, this is what we want. We're going to leave it right there. We're getting ready to go into our second break. Speaking with Brandon Hogan, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. Back in a little bit. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. We all know what it feels like to be hit with an unexpected bill or expense. On the other hand, there are also times when money falls into our hands unexpectedly. A big tax refund, a major cash gift from a relative, a run of luck at the casino. Having a plan for unexpected income can be just as important as anticipating unexpected expenses. Just remember, debt first, saving second, and spending last. First, put at least 50% of your windfall toward paying down debt, starting with high-interest credit cards. Second, put at least 10% into your long-term emergency savings fund. And if your savings fund is fully invested, meaning you have at least 6 months of your annual income saved, then you can put all of this 20% towards your retirement savings. As for the rest, have fun with it. Spend it any way you want. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a nonprofit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and Jonesboro Kappa League at gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by.
Several years ago, we had a customer take a calf to the processing plant. The owner of the plant always got up very early. Our customer got a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the owner asked him, "How much of this beef do you want in hamburger?" Leniel, not an early rider, said, "Eugene, I was laying here just thinking about that." Glenn sang, God bless our troops.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month. Shout out to Angie's Professional Cleaning, offering commercial and residential cleaning services in Jonesboro and the surrounding areas. Licensed and bonded. 870-271-9708. Shout out to Royal Priesthood International Ministries, 5193 Highway 1 South, Jonesboro, under the leadership of Bishop Raymond Williams, Prophetess Teresa Lee Williams, and Pastor Joel Thompson. Bible study Sundays, 9:30 a.m., worship 11 o'clock a.m. They also offer a prison ministry. Shout out to Tax Refund Firm, DBA Cool Cuts Taxes, tax preparation and holiday and refund anticipation loans, 1411 Franklin Street, Suite 6, Jonesboro, 870-520-7470, 870-331-8311.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversation on KLEK 102.5 FM with our guest, Brandon Hogan, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. And, of course, just a quick reminder, once again, Election Day is November 3rd, and you can register to vote up until October 5th. Quabila?
Okay. I just want to say thank you to Brandon for your visit today, giving us your time, and giving us your feedback on the different questions. Try not to make it too hard, but, these are questions we ask every candidate that's running.
I don't mind. You can ask me whatever you feel like you want to or need to. My candor in the situation is guaranteed.
Okay. Are there any topics, though, in particular that we haven't covered, or some that we have that you would like to expound upon?
Well, one issue that gets addressed nationally fairly often, but not locally, is campaign finance. I know just because of my personal situation, everyone else, my direct opposition for this seat, and then pretty much everyone running for every position, massively outfinances me. I'm a regular guy. I live on veterans disability payments. And, like the little campaign signs that you see everywhere, 18 by 24, depending on how many you buy, they're between, $6 and $10 a piece. And, covering, we don't live in Chicago or L.A., but covering a city the size of Jonesboro just to get your name in people's minds, just to give them the opportunity to decide if they like you and what you say or not, is very, very difficult when you're self-financing. I'm not a successful banker or a physician or someone backed by a national organization like the NAACP. This is all my own pocket. And I don't have, unfortunately, the specific answer for that. But there should be some way to make it easier for citizens to see all of the candidates.
Well, that's what we do here at KLEK, and of course,
right, and
we will actually have a debate for the Ward 1 Position 2 candidates. And let me look on my calendar.
October 6th, I believe.
October 6th. I'm glad you remember, because I have to go on my calendar for it. Yes, that is correct. October 6th from 9 to 11 a.m. So you will get to see all of the candidates for Ward 1 Position 2 face to face. And look
Steel trap.
Hey, Hey,
got a mind like a steel trap.
Hey, well, that's great.
No, that's a complete lie. I forget stuff all the time.
But of course, that'll be your opportunity to hear from all of the candidates at the same time. You'll get to ask them questions, and they're going to ask each other questions as well. So that should be a lot of fun. Kabila? Cue.
Okay, sorry. I was on mute. Anyway.
It's not Zoom, baby.
Y'all don't want to hear me coughing. Anyway, going back to your comment about, not having the funds, and that's why I think that utilizing the media sources that are available can be very beneficial because, as we know, a lot of people stay on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and things like that. So I know I get flyers in the mail. I read over them, but I don't collect them. I'll put it like that. So, coming on shows like this and utilizing like ASU. Have you had a chance to be on the go to the Arkansas State University radio station?
Have you done an interview with KASU yet?
No.
Okay.
No. I would love to. I'd be more than happy to.
I don't want to put words in their mouth. I know that they also do interviews. I know they've done the mayoral candidates. I don't know if they're doing city council or not, but shout out to my guy Jonathan, my guy Brandon, also known as BT Groove here on KLEK. But if they're doing that, then I'm sure they will get in touch with you.
Sounds good. I look forward to it. But, programs like yours that get local candidates for local positions and lets the whole area get a look at them, get a little snapshot of what they are about and what they believe and what they have planned is fantastic. I very much support it.
And that's what we like to do. And we're the only station in town that, gives candidates up to a full hour to discuss their platforms. And, of course, quick little plug because we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so we do need donations in order to continue to do this. Like I explained to him off the air, I'm pretty much the only full-time person here. Everybody else is volunteer, so we can't sell commercials because we're a nonprofit station, so therefore we have to depend on our sponsors and our donors. So you can go on our website, klekfm.org. That's klekfm.org. And donate so we can continue to provide these interviews for you. Okay, I'm done shilling and begging for money now.
So, Mr. Brandon, so again, going back into, in case someone missed the beginning of the interview, give us a little more of your background and why you decided to run, and then give your plug for why people should vote for you.
And you got about 2.5 minutes to do that.
I don't think it'll take me 2.5 minutes. I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm like I said, I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to play politics and dance around questions or dance around issues just to make somebody like me. You either, when you're choosing a candidate, you should choose them based on what you think they're going to do in office, not whether or not they have a nice smile and a good handshake, as my grandmother used to say. Like I said, I am very straightforward. If you want to know something, ask me. I'm not afraid to answer any questions. I'm not afraid to tackle any issues that I feel are going to help the people at Jonesboro. I think that we need long-term solutions. One of the things was hiring more officers, and I think it was it the first 2 or 3 years, 75% of their salary is paid by the state.
Right.
Okay, what happens on year 4?
Well, I think
hopefully we have more funds at that point, but if we don't, did that person just lose their job?
You hope it don't come to that, but I think that's the goal, to try to give you time to come up with the funding to keep that officer on the force.
Right, but that to me is a mostly short-term solution. We've got the first 2 or 3 years, and hopefully we might figure it out in time. That's kind of like hopping off a bridge and hoping you can figure out how not to hit the ground on the way down.
Absolutely. All right, so once again, tell the listeners and the viewers why they should vote for you to be the next city councilman, Ward 1, Position 2.
Well, because I'm not afraid of the issues. Like I've said a few times, I'm not a politician. I don't particularly care for them. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not interested in trying to help my own business or my own pockets. I'm completely willing to the city councilmen get a small salary. I think it's something like $9,000 a year, $10,000 a year. I'm totally willing to give Give half of it back to the city. It's not about the money. $10,000 a year isn't going to make anybody rich.
Absolutely. All right. We thank you so much for stopping by today. And, of course, as always, KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, we do not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office. These interviews are provided for informational purposes only. Election day is November 3rd. You can register to vote up through October 5th. And you can request your absentee ballot right now if you're concerned about COVID-19 or have any other concerns. Go ahead and do that ASAP and get it returned as soon as possible. The mail is running slow. And continue to watch our interviews. Program note, tomorrow we're supposed to have Emma Agnew on. She has actually moved to Tuesday, so I believe tomorrow we're going to have Evangelist Email Lube for Future for Felons on. But stay tuned. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Broadcasting from the First National Bank Tower, this is KLEK-LP Jonesboro, the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Thursday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. A stalled out weather front will keep cloud showers and thunderstorms in the forecast